Zach was the father of the child on the birth certificate, that she was leaving him. I believe it's in the best interest of the child to keep the father as is.
And she told you that he thought you were the biological father. Were you getting any kind of sense that she was expecting you to step up and do something?
Possibly. It was really hard to tell because she was still dating Zach. She was kind of doing it behind his back at that time.
This is an interest of Bailey, minor child, non-custodial party being Caleb Sadler, custodial party being Chelsea Taylor, and the presumed father in this matter is Mr. Zachary Bailey.
The short version is I'm asking the court to order Mr. Sadler to pay child support. My understanding, Mr. Bailey is the presumed father, and I believe he's wanting visitation. I believe he's actually willing to pay support if the court were to so order, as long as there was visitation attached. But beyond that, I'll let him speak for himself. Anyway, this is a complicated one, so I think we have an interesting legal issue for you, Your Honor, and I'll save the rest for the attorneys for the parties.
And well, I'll start with you, Mr. Barnhill, and then go to Mr. Ridley, and then we'll see what Mr. Bailey wants to do once we get into testimony under oath. So, Mr. Barnhill, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, as we previously announced to you several months ago, Mr. Sadler is asserting under 160.204 and 160.607 of the Texas Family Code that because there was a presumed father, because the documentary evidence is overwhelmingly in support of that presumed father, because of the age of the child, and because of the statutory time limitation with the child having the presumed father, it is our position the court is without authority at this time to make orders of any nature related to Mr. Sadler, and we're asking the court to dismiss Mr. Sadler from these proceedings.
All right. Sounds like this is just a totally technical one and not a testimonial one. So I'll start with, then I'll go to you, Mr. Ridley, sir.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So, Your Honor, this is a case where the child was born July the 25th of 2018. My client had been married to the presumed father, Zach Bailey, got a divorce. The child was born within 300 days of the time of the divorce. The divorce was granted pro se down in Williamson County. The divorce decree says no children of the marriage, and the mom is not pregnant. In fact, she was pregnant at the time, and the child was born later on that year after the divorce. The biological father is Caleb Sadler. I think Mr. Barnhill's right. The statutory time has run. That's beyond 4 years from the time that the child was born, and the action was filed by the Attorney General's office in June of 2023. Our position is that Mr. Bailey, although is on the birth certificate, is not the father of the child. The biological is Mr. Sadler. We join with the Attorney General's office, and we're asking the court to order a DNA test for Mr. Bailey. My understanding of the statute is that the presumption of paternity established under 160.204 can be rebutted if there is an adjudication that's been filed. And of course, that's where we're at now, is an adjudication has been filed by the Attorney General's office. So we're asking the court, bottom line, order a DNA test.
All right, so anything in response, Mr. Diamond, and then I'll go back to Mr. Barnhill. Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Barnhill?
Judge, I do believe Mr. Ridley is correct as it relates to Mr. Bailey and the court's authority to order genetic testing, because the statutes that are sandwiched starting in 160.204 in between there and the time limitation under 160.607 clearly authorize those proceedings to be maintained at various points in time. And I'll be prepared when the court is ready to argue the factual recitation as well from Mr. Ridley, I believe is undisputed, which under the strict provisions of 0.204 and 607 clearly are the fact pattern that would bar any type of adjudication of Mr. Sadler as the father of the child at this time, whether he is in fact established by genetic testing or otherwise.
All right, then. Mr. Bailey, this has turned into a non-testimonial legal argument type of case. So at this time, sir, is there anything that you're requesting the court to do in your behalf?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. As far as the request for DNA testing, one way or the other, sir, do you want to do that, or are you objecting to that?
Yes, sir. I'll do that.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, looks like the judge is gonna have to do some legal research now, okay? I would make y'all write a brief, but I don't want your clients paying for that, so I'm gonna go ahead. I will allow y'all, if y'all do wish to submit some type of paper with the appropriate case law on it, and in the defense of what you're requesting, or in support of what you're requesting. Sorry, not in defense. But like I said, I've only had one of these in the last 12 years, I'm thinking, and that was 12 years ago. So yeah, so the judge is not up to speed on this at all. So I haven't followed the case law on this area in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and I hate taking stuff under advisement, but I got myself a new take under advisement notebook. So for everything I say, I'm gonna take under advisement so it won't fall through the cracks anymore. So this one looks like that's what I'm gonna have to do. Is there anything else and any type of argument that either of you wish to make at this time, Mr. Ridley or Mr. Barnhill?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnhill.
Judge, just for purposes, and certainly I've talked with Mr. Sadler previously about this. I'm happy to present the statutes and some supporting case law. We happen to have one of these cases homegrown from Bell County that went up on an appeal that follows and tracks this statute. But for purposes of any written material we submit while it's under advisement, could we at this point stipulate that Mr. Sadler in no way prevented or precluded himself from being adjudicated as the father of this child within the statutory time limit? Because that factor seems to be the only one. I haven't heard anybody say that he had any participation on when he was proposed to be the father. Haven't heard any facts of that. And so I know when we presented this to you previously, several months ago, Mr. Diamond indicated that he wanted to look at the facts and look at the law and come back and see if this was even in contest. And I've not heard anything as to why legally the statutes, the black letter statutes wouldn't apply from the Attorney General's position. So I'm just trying to figure out what factual basis there would exist. Because as Mr. Ridley stated, factually, time-wise, and a divorce decree and other conduct that didn't involve Mr. Sadler all acknowledges the timelines of when this child was born, whose name was placed on the birth certificate, who acted as the father. All of those facts were outside Mr. Sadler's control. Mr. Sadler, would you state your name for the court, please?
Caleb Richard Sadler.
And sir, you are the named father, potential father of Callie Marie Bailey. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the court at the time Callie was born, as we have learned from copies of the birth certificate, were you aware at that time that you could possibly be the father?
No.
Can you tell the court how you came to meet Miss Bailey, who is the mother of Callie Bailey?
She randomly messaged me couple years after the child was born on Snapchat, and said that we needed to talk, and we met, and that's when I had met the child for the first time. The child was 2 or 3 at the time, I believe.
And at the time that you met Callie, what representation did Miss Bailey make to you concerning the potential fatherhood of that child?
That Zach was the father of the child on the birth certificate, that she was leaving him, and that she wanted to, I guess she believed that I was the father.
Did Miss Bailey make any representation to you about any genetic testing that had been done at that time, Mr. Sadler?
No, sir.
Did Miss Bailey make any request of you at that time, while the child was still well within the statute of limitations to adjudicate you as the father, that you take a genetic test?
No, sir.
Now, after that initial meeting, can you tell the court when the next time you received any contact from any individual regarding Callie?
We spoke with Chelsea and Callie for maybe 2, maximum 3 months. We actually watched her for, and then after that, there was no contact. Chelsea disappeared. She changed her phone number, blocked our phone number. We had no contact after that.
Okay, and I'm bad with pronouns, and for the purposes of the court, when you said we watched and we spoke with, who is the we?
Myself and my wife.
Okay. Can you tell the court during that 2 to 3 month time period, how much contact do you believe you had with this child?
I'd say once or twice a week.
Okay.
She was
And
working,
during,
so we were helping. Anytime she needed help watching the child, we would help watch the child.
and what anything did you ever represent to the child as to your relationship to this child?
I was trying to just get a relationship with the child. I wanted to be the father if I was truly the father. But outside of that, just trying to get that connection with the child.
After that time period that you mentioned, that brief time period before contact was terminated by Callie's mother, can you tell the court when the next time was that you heard or received any contact related to this case?
When she got married to her present husband, my family contacted her for a family picture.
Okay. Did you
And
receive that?
yes,
Okay. At that point in time, how old would Callie have been?
4, 5. I'm not 100% sure on age, to be 100% honest.
Your address where you and your wife resided during this time period that you provided assistance to Chelsea by watching Callie, what address was that?
That was in Leander,
Okay. Where?
Texas,
Okay. And where do you presently live?
in Gerald, Texas.
Has your address been known to Miss Bailey throughout this time frame?
Yes, she actually received a letter from us.
Has your phone number that you can be contacted on remained the same throughout these years of Callie's life?
Yes, my phone number hasn't changed in probably 10 years.
So if contact had been sought by Miss Bailey or by Mr. Bailey or by the Attorney General or by anyone seeking to adjudicate you, would you have been easy to find?
Yes, sir.
At what point did you receive this petition indicating that you might be the biological father of Callie?
July of last year.
At that point in time, Callie would have been how old?
5, I believe.
Okay. And did you cause in any way any delay in any action pertaining to the adjudication of Callie?
None at all.
Were you aware, other than that Miss Bailey was leaving her husband, Zachary Bailey, were you aware that any lawsuit had been filed back at the birth of Callie or after her birth indicating that no child was born or adopted to that marriage?
I knew about the divorce.
Did you
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Did you receive a copy of the paperwork?
I was not involved at all.
Were you consulted in any way with the fact that Miss Bailey was pregnant at the time of that divorce?
I was not.
Did you participate in any representation to any court in Williamson County or any other court in the state of Texas to help conceal the fact that Miss Bailey was pregnant at that time?
I did not.
Did you know what relationship Zachary Bailey had with Callie?
I did. I
And
saw,
what
we saw, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Please finish
We
your answer.
saw, we were sent pictures when the child was born of Chelsea and Zach being the father.
And did you know anything other than the fact that it was Zachary Bailey's name who was on the birth certificate?
I did not.
And finally, in the last group of questions, were you ever asked by Miss Bailey to sign any acknowledgement of paternity before Callie turned 4 years of age?
No,
Or to sign any form that would cause the birth certificate for Callie to be amended?
no,
Simply put, Mr. Sadler, when you reviewed this case with me, did you believe that the actions legally that had been taken by others did not include you at any point until this present action?
that's correct.
And did you express to me that you wanted to challenge this based upon the timing of this at this point in time?
That is correct.
And are you asking the court to dismiss you from this case based upon 160.607 of the Texas Family Code?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You do not know what facts may have been made known to the presumed father at any point after the birth of Callie. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You do not know whether he was operating under any mistaken belief that he, in fact, was the biological father, do you?
I do not.
And you do not know, other than the stipulations or representations, excuse me, that he was living with Miss Bailey and engaging in a relationship with Miss Bailey that could produce a child at or near the time of conception.
That is correct.
That would have been solely based upon those representations that we've heard and will hopefully hear today in evidence.
Yes, sir.
With respect to Mr. Bailey's actions or rights of action, you have no position on him having any relationship with Callie if the court seeks to adjudicate him under separate provisions of the family code. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ridley, your witness.
Mr. Sadler, as far as this child is concerned, are you wanting any type of relationship with this child?
I believe it's in the best interest of the child to keep the father as is. It's the father that she knows she was born with. He raised her. I feel like it would be in the best interest of the child not to switch all of that up at 5 years old.
And so you're talking about Mr. Taylor, the current husband of Chelsea, is that correct?
That would be Mr. Bailey, the father on the birth certificate.
Maybe you misunderstood my question. Going back to the first part of it, you do not want a relationship with this child, even though you may be the biological father. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And from everything that you're understanding from the pleadings and the testimony, what we're requesting is that Mr. Bailey actually DNA tested to determine whether or not he is the biological father, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Diamond.
Not a lot of questions, but that first meeting you had, Mr. Sadler, when she told you that he thought you were the biological father, were you getting any kind of sense that she was expecting you to step up and do something?
Possibly. It was really hard to tell because she was still dating Zach. She was kind of doing it behind his back at that time in the initial of me meeting the child. But I knew that we had dated before. There was a possibility that the times could add up for the child to be mine. So I was ready to, if it came down to it, to step up and be the father.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Anything on redirect, Mr. Barnhill?
No, Your Honor. I believe that's all I have for Mr. Sadler.
Mr. Sadler, I heard some testimony, and I just want to clarify. One time, you said there was a time frame when you and your wife were helping taking care of the child, correct, sir?
That is correct.
All right, and I think the question was asked, but I didn't hear the answer or didn't get the answer that I thought the question needed. So I'm going to ask it straight up, sir. When you were having that child with you and your present, did you ever hold yourself out to her as being her father?
I attempted to.
And how's that, sir?
I was just trying to step into that. Zach was in Alabama. I'm in Texas. She was living here. I was trying to step into that role if the child was mine, taking care of when I could. Chelsea was trying to get her to call me dad.
All right, that's what it sounded like. I just want to make sure that was the circumstance. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Then I'll give all the lawyers another shot. Anything else, Mr. Mr. Barnhill? I'm gonna have to put a little red barn up here, but I've had so much with Mr. Brimhall lately. I'm sorry, but Mr. Barnhill, anything else, sir?
No, Your Honor. I believe we've got the facts before the court.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, Mr. Ridley? Okay. You're muted, sir. I just want to make sure. You're shaking your head, but I want to make sure I got it on the record.
Sorry. No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Mr. Diamond?
Please, Your Honor, maybe two, and I try not to belabor this too much, Your Honor, but Mr. Sadler, did you ever point blank tell the child, I am your father?
No.
Were you ever present when her mother told her that you were the father?
Can you explain what I'm not really
So did you ever hear Miss Taylor tell the child that you were her father?
No.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Barnhill, you wish to call any other witnesses at this time?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right, then I'll go over to you, Mr. Ridley. Any witnesses do you wish to call at this time, sir?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Does the state wish to call anyone as a witness?
If Mr. Ridley doesn't object, I would call his client. But if he's not wanting to go there, then I can hold back. So I guess.
All right then, Mr. Diamond. So I'm sorry, Ms. Haley, you're already on those, so, would you state your full name for the record, ma'am?
It's Chelsea LaShawn Ashcraft. Previous.
Yes, correct, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yes.
All right, you may proceed, Mr. Diamond, thank you.
Yeah, so how about it, Miss Ashcraft? Did you ever hear Mr. Sadler tell the child that he was the father?
I did not.
And did you ever tell the child that Mr. Sadler was the father in his presence?
I did not.
Okay, pass a witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Barnhill, any questions?
Judge, just simply for purposes of 160.607, the one paragraph that would apply under B1 indicates that the presumed father and the mother of the child did not live together or engage in sexual intercourse with each other during the probable time of conception. And so for purposes of that, I would need to ask just very limited questions. They're sensitive, but I would either ask those or ask Mr. Ridley if he prefers to ask those questions. That's the only other ground around this statute.
No. Since this matter is statute driven, obviously that has to be asked. So Mr. Ridley, you want Mr. Barnhill to go ahead and do that?
Go ahead, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Barnhill, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ashcraft, with respect to the presumed father, Zachary Bailey, I know that you had a divorce petition that was filed in Williamson County, and that at that divorce was granted, it reflected that there was no child born, adopted, or expected of that relationship. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I believe that you were living with Mr. Bailey during the time period preceding the divorce. Is that correct?
I was not living with him until after our divorce.
And with respect to the presumed father timeframe, the child was born within 300 days after the divorce was granted. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And certainly during the time period that you were with Mr. Bailey, whether living with him or not, you had a sexual relationship. Is that correct?
The time frame of her being born or the time frame of being her, like, of conception?
Time period of within 300 days of her
Oh,
birth.
yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Mr. Ridley, anything on cross?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, one final time, any other witnesses need to come at this time? Mr. Bailey. All right, I want to veer off here a little bit. And Mr. Donovan, what is your position as far as the court ordering DNA testing for Mr. Bailey?
Your Honor, I glad I'm not wearing your hat today, but my bosses want DNA requested, so that's what I'm asking for, Your Honor.
All right, well, that's going to be part of the advisement. I just want to see what the state's request was on all that. I'm not sure if Mr. Barnhill or Mr. Ridley have a pony in that hunt or dog in that hunt, but yeah, I just want to see what the state stand was. All right, folks. So
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I should have given a better answer. If the court is going to rule that Mr. Sadler cannot go on the hook for child support, then DNA would probably be unnecessary at that point. So I guess I'm sorry that I would prefer to get a ruling first and then the DNA. But
right, well, I got to do the ruling first, and then I'll look at Mr. Bailey. I'll ask you, sir. You're technically your own legal rep. Are you requesting DNA testing at this time, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, just want to get that on the record. All right, folks, I think I've got it. Unless someone wants to make some closing statements and some closing arguments, and Mr. Barnhill sent over that to my assistant, the site for the Bell County case. I'm pretty sure there's not too many of those. It's probably the most prevalent one out there, so we'll find it no matter what. But I want to give myself a chance to go over this, and judge is going to come up with a couple of docket days a month where I'll make rulings as necessary, at least one. But anyway, for this one, I am going to go ahead. I got a Zoom code for it. I'm going to put it on a non-contested docket date where I can actually make a ruling and where this won't fall through the cracks. No one has to appear, but I want to try to get this done within the next, well, it's right next week. Everything's closing down after Wednesday of next week. I forgot about the 4th of July, so let me bring up the calendars and see what I have here. Thank you. I'm taking a 4-day weekend. I'm pretty sure most folks are too, so that'll work. Belinda, I don't show, but my first case on Comanche on Monday is not till 11:30. We don't have anything earlier. We don't have anything else earlier than that, right? I'm sorry. Oh, she's double checking. So I'm looking at putting this on the 10:30 just for ruling. Yeah, same Zoom code. You guys don't have to show up. Mr. Damo will probably show up, yeah, I don't want this to fall through the cracks, so we'll definitely do that if there's nothing else on that day. Let's see, I got 11:30, 1:30, 2:30, 30.
Is that the first, Your Honor, or is that the 8th?
That's the 8th.
May I request a different date, Your Honor? I'm going to be on leave that week, and I would prefer to continue to handle this if just because of the
Well,
moving
just for
parts that are
ruling, Mr.
involved.
Diamond, yeah, you don't even have to be there. We'll get you a copy of the letter on the ruling, sir, okay? Okay, again, everything after that's just gotten crazy again, because of, your conference at the end of the month and advanced family next month. So everybody's getting there, everything's trying to get done in July that can be done. So anyway, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna move it to 10:30 on that date. You can have someone stand in for you if you need to. Again, I think it's gonna be pretty straightforward right now. Probably am definitely looking at ordering the DNA test for Mr. Bailey, but everything else I'm looking at researching at this point. And if I find some reason I can't order for Mr. Bailey, I'll let you know. Well, anyway, I say I'm resetting it for that time frame, and if I get the chance to get you guys and you ladies and gentlemen something out in writing before July, I will do so. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
All right.
you.
We're off the record. Thank you.
My other kids didn't need it because their mother support them and don't need my little bit. You're the only one. I'll call you to see what's going on. That's what you wrote.
But that wasn't about insurance. That was just money because Alexis kept asking me for money and money.
What money would she be trying to threaten you to get out of you?
I don't know, to be honest. She lost her job. I don't know. When she lost her job, that's when she really pushed.
Mr. Slocum, you'll have 30 days, $12,000.
12,000 in 30 days. I can barely live right now.